Hey guys, before Kevin comes in, come on, bring it in. We gotta talk.
What's going on, Bearclaw? What's going on?
Listen, I have had crow makeup put on me by Kevin. You have been through the anus of a shark, and you have had a madman named Billy all following you, and Kevin has either been responsible for or done nothing to stop any of these things.
You know what, dude? I'm still cleaning chum out of my ears from fighting my way out of that shark. It's terrible.
So sorry for you. We gotta do this.
We have to get back at Kevin, and we gotta teach him a lesson.
What do you got, man? What do you got?
That's why I got this firework. It's illegal in 49 states. You gotta go to Alaska to get this sumbitch. It's called the Sandy Dildo.
Oh shit, that sounds serious.
Oh, it is, and we're gonna put it right under. We're gonna put it right under Kevin's chair and light it off.
That sounds amazing.
And we're gonna teach Kevin a little lesson about putting people through sharks' digestive systems and making them dress up like a crow.
Yes.
Oh, wait, here he's coming.
This is about respect, damn it.
This is about respect. Here he comes, guys. Quick, everybody, look normal.
Hey,
what's up?
How's it going, buddy?
Hey, you guys are already here, huh?
Yeah.
Wow, ready to go.
Yeah, excited to record.
Yeah,
I love
Excited you're here too, man.
I can't
Good.
wait.
Have you lost weight?
Listen, I'm getting in shape over the summer. Whew. Are you ready for the burning?
Oh yeah, man. We're ready to fire it up.
Fire it up.
What's going on?
So you are afraid of something else. We all go a little mad sometimes. You don't know what death is.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
welcome to the madness.
We are the Mouths of Madness, your new favorite podcast for horror movie reviews. We're coming to you live tonight from the Slasher Summer House after fireworks just went off here. Glad to be alive. Whew.
Yeah, not everything went quite as planned, but you know,
Sorry about the 3rd degree burns, Kevin.
yeah.
Yeah, you'll be okay.
I'm okay. This is our episode 17 on the 1981 The Burning. My name is Kevin, and let me introduce you to the other members of Madness. First, we have Dan. Dan, how are you enjoying this summer vacation?
Well, it's been a rough go,
Yeah.
but
I'm
Yeah.
glad you're back and doing okay after the shark mishap.
yeah, that shark mishap. It was very harrowing experience.
Yeah.
Listen,
That
we're
looked
even
painful.
now.
Yeah.
I got a little firework mishap. You got a little shark mishap.
I don't think it's the same, but yeah.
we'll even, I guess.
All right.
We'll even, Steven.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we have the mayor of Halloween Town. It's Bearclaw.
Hey, everybody. Excited to be here. And firework thing went a little sideways. That happens. We have to just keep moving on and keep moving on with the episode, you know?
Just remember, safety first.
Safety first. And I'll never forgive you for the crow makeup. And we'll keep going.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
We've all been through our share of abuse by you.
Oh, finally, we have the youngest member of Madness, my son Logan. Logan, hey, it's almost Logan's birthday. It's tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
early birthday.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my birthday present couldn't come. My birthday present being that lawsuit that's been waiting to happen against Billy. I've been really trying to get that restraining order down.
Trying to get some compensation.
Yeah, really have been. I don't really care about money or anything like that. I kind of just want him to not be around anymore. He's creeping me out.
Yeah, but he helps viewership.
Does he?
It's all,
I don't remember the last time he helped.
it's all about ratings, Logan. All about ratings.
Yeah, you would say that.
I know that there are a lot of other great horror movie podcasts out there, but what separates us from the other ones is that we're going to be giving you the older versus younger generation perspective. Myself, Dan, and Bearclaw are all in our late 30s, while my son Logan, he just graduated high school. So this is the clash of the generations.
I love how you had to put that down there. Like, oh yeah, I just graduated high school.
Hey, we're proud of you. That's an accomplishment.
Congrats.
Before we get into our episode, I want to plug some of our stuff and where to find us. Please follow us on Instagram, and that's at mouths.of.madness. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and that's at Mouths of Madness. And finally, email Bearclaw and let him know if you've ever been a part of a prank that's gone wrong.
Send me those emails about, that one time when you were at summer camp and, something went real sideways, but only in a comical fashion.
Right, exactly.
Maybe a trombone or a flute.
This one time at band camp.
At band camp?
That's at the padded room at outlook.com. Now, for our content consumed, we're going to give you what we've been up to. What have we been watching? What have we been reading, listening to, or gaming? For me, I'm going to take this one, fellas, because I've been on vacation all week. So we went to see Maxine in the theaters.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was great. I like that movie.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
Pretty good. Logan didn't go with us, but
That's okay. I don't like X.
we're three older men.
Yeah.
It was actually, I would say it was the better one out of all three of them.
Yeah, I was expecting that. I do like Mia Goth. I think she's incredible, but she's way too good for me that I'm like, you kind of make the movie, and X just, they didn't have enough of her.
Mia Goth is great. She's like the perfect blend of like creepy, sadistic, hot,
Yeah.
Like,
very confusing.
You're like, am I supposed to be into this? Am I supposed to be turned away
Am
from
I into
this?
this?
I don't.
I think that's part of the problem. I am into it.
I find her not having eyebrows very, very.
She has eyebrows, but they're blonde, but that's the same thing.
They're invisible.
Yeah.
They're
It's kind of
invisible.
weird looking.
Yeah.
Maybe you just got to get close enough to her to see the eyebrows.
Oh, yeah.
I think if I get too close, she might
Hurt you? Ooh. Damn. That's it for me this week. How about you, Dan?
I am gonna have to pass again this week because I was gonna use Maxine, but again, I probably will have new content for us for the next episode because The Boys has ended, and I completed the DLC for Elden Ring.
Wow.
Wow.
Hey.
I'm impressed. Yeah.
That's
Let's
good.
a round of applause for this gentleman.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean,
This maidenless
Unfortunately for you,
tarnished.
however, you are
I've
maidenless.
destroyed everyone now. No one can oppose me.
Do I need to address you as Elden Lord now?
I mean, if it makes you feel. feel that, yeah.
Oh, we got these signs too, man.
Yeah.
New shirt unlocked.
But yeah, that's it for me.
Awesome.
Nice.
All right. Bearclaw, how about you?
Well, I have actually been reading a little bit. I've been reading a book that has been written by one of our wonderful listeners, Kimberly Pinson. She wrote Final Girl Redux, a book all about horror movies and the genre that we love. And I have not finished it yet, but I've gotten about a quarter of the way through it, and I'm working my way through it. Really great book. Highly recommend it for any horror fans out there. I think it brings up some really great points. And, hearing other people's perspectives and opinions really helps to develop your own and really helps you to gain a level of sophistication to your preferences and tastes. And I think that listening to podcasts like ours and reading works like Final Girl Redux, I think it's you gain another perspective, and it's a really great well-written read. So I'd recommend that for all of our listeners. That's Final Girl Redux by Kimberly Pinson.
And her handle on Instagram, if you want to find her, is Modern Monstrous. She has links in her profile. So if you're interested in reading that book, go check it out.
Yeah, highly recommend it.
All right, Logan, how about you?
I've been reading my book a month. Just finished Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. Pretty good book. Started watching the series as well. I'm not a big fan of that. But that's just because the main actor I'm not really a big fan of. But yeah, it was a pretty good book. It's a lot like Brave New World, kind of like talking about kind of this reality, different realities, different people, different worlds, like that kind of thing. It's like a sci-fi book. It's pretty good. It's one of my favorite books, actually. It's really well done. So, as well as like shows and stuff, like Dan said, like I just finished The Boys, so like I got nothing right now for as well as shows and movies for the moment. So. waiting for Deadpool and Wolverine to come out.
Oh, that's coming soon, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, without any further ado, grab a beer, pull up a chair, hold on to your straitjacket tight, and let's dive into the madness. We watched The Burning from 1981. It was directed by Tony Maylam and written by Peter Lawrence and Bob Weinstein. The story of the Cropsy killer and the folklore comes from Harvey Weinstein. So this was Harvey and Bob Weinstein's first film.
This is not going to be a very watched episode.
They were desperate to break into the movie business, and they saw the success of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Halloween, basically finding these low-budget horror versus high success. So they were looking to put a little bit of money and get a big return. This was actually legitimately based on a true legend of Cropsy, which was, I guess, a legend in the upstate New York area for campers.
Yeah. Did you guys watch the Cropsy movie?
I heard there is one. I didn't watch it. Did you watch
the
it?
documentary?
The documentary, yeah.
I saw it, but I didn't get a chance to.
Oh, well, you guys are missing out then, because that's a true life horror story.
Yeah, it's about the real person that's based
that
Cropsy
Cropsy is based on,
yeah.
who was this guy who used to work at this Willowbrook mental institution. He was actually like an attendant there, but they shut it down because Geraldo Guerrera's first story that he ever did was an expose on that place, because it was like such a like real life horror show for children who were mentally disabled, and it was a place for that. They shut it down, but a lot of the people that they dispersed ended up like coming back to like the shell of it. He was one of the attendants there, and he's been convicted a couple of different times of kidnapping small children and then burying them in the woods. And for a long time, people were like, oh, people live under the tunnels there since the 60s, because the place was shut down. I forget when the place was shut down, but like there was this urban legend that somebody was running around in the tunnels, but somebody was running around in the tunnels, and it was this guy, and he may have had help, and like they eventually caught up with him, and he caught like several life sentences, but like he was abducting and murdering children, like real dark stuff. And that's who Cropsy was based off. It was in Staten Island.
Okay.
They made him very lighthearted in this one. Well, comparatively.
Well, that's like the genesis of it was in Staten Island, and then, it kind of bled throughout New York as like Cropsy is the boogeyman equivalent, you know what I mean?
Well, that makes sense too, and that seems like a pretty like likely like I guess story adaptation to this legend that is told in camps and things like that, to scare kids.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What's cool about this movie is that it is always synonymous with Friday the 13th because they came out within a year from each other. But this project for The Burning was actually created in 1979, and it was before Friday the 13th, and it was originally titled The Cropsy Maniac.
Yeah.
So there are people that think that this was kind of coming after the success of Friday the 13th, which it very much did, but the actual story and everything was created before this movie. So
and I'm always
before Friday the 13th.
I'm always at a disadvantage because I have yet to see Friday the 13th. I know we're doing it soon, so I will be watching it. But it is a movie I have not seen, so it was extra interesting coming in here and seeing this. And a lot of people seem to think this is very similar to Friday the 13th. I'll be interested to compare and contrast them.
Yeah, join us on our Summer of Madness tour as we look into a couple other great summer horror movies coming up. Another thing with this too is the Cropsy legend had spawned two other films around the same time as The Burning.
Oh, okay.
So one was called Don't Go Into the House, and the other one was called Madman. I've seen Madman. I haven't seen Don't Go Into the House, but I have seen Madman, and Madman actually had to change a lot of their whole story because The Burning pretty much told the camp legend Cropsy story the way they were going to portray it as well. So Madman had to change the whole story.
Understandable.
Yeah, definitely. Now, this movie had a budget of $1.5 million.
No way.
Do you guys know what it grossed at the box office?
1.5 for this hunk
Yeah.
of garbage.
Dang.
I'm gonna go with, because it wasn't in its time, it wasn't a big success, but it must have made money because this is the cornerstone of the Miramax empire.
Empire was.
Yeah, I would say maybe 3 million. Maybe they tripled their money.
Bro, I'm not even gonna go that high. I would say like it was in theaters, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Had a
okay.
theatrical release.
Damn, I'm gonna go like with a measly like 800K. Like that's how I'm gonna go.
All right, I'm gonna go the exact opposite. I'm gonna try to use some logic here. Maybe it'll backfire on me. But we're in the middle of the early '80s. It's the slasher boom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think about Urban Legend, I Know What You Did Last Summer, all those movies that followed Scream.
Yep.
Did fairly well. So I'm gonna say
You think there's some kind of like draft, like with bicycling when you're riding behind a van, like it's like it's catching the draft.
yeah, it's like the little fish that's suckering on the big fish. Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
I'm gonna say like 14 million.
Whoa.
Jesus.
14 mil. You went for broke, man.
Yeah, I know. Very, very high number.
Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you.
My logic failed, didn't it?
It did.
It's like 300,000.
It only grossed $707,000.
Ooh.
So I guess Logan is the closest, even though he went over with Price is Right rules.
I'm just gonna say it. This movie looks like it looks
It
like
looks like
shit.
it was worth 1.5 million.
It looks like it was worth. It doesn't even look like that, brother. It looks horrible.
Dang. Man,
There's
I'm
only
coming out
one reason.
firing.
There's only
Spitting hot fire.
Wow, some of that hot fire.
there's only two reasons this movie should be worth that much. What they did with Cropsy and the camp. Like they had a big
They
camp.
basically paid Tom Savini $1 million.
I bet they did.
That's probably what it was.
Famously, Tom Savini turned down Friday the 13th Part 2. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let's do this.
To do this. So maybe your theory's right. They gave him a blank check and they were like, "Hey, what do you want?" He's like $1 million.
Maybe, yeah.
It had to be like half of that budget or more.
I mean, he was a big get for this movie for sure. Like, and part of the
Was he big at was Savini big at this time? Because everybody's got to start.
He was.
This is a start for a lot of people.
Wasn't Dawn of the Dead his
Yes,
start?
yeah.
That was like
What
3
year?
or 4 years
78,
before.
I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was popular
So he
during
was a
that
name
time.
then.
Yeah.
78. But when the original Friday the 13th came out, he blew up. You know, because
okay.
nobody had seen effects like.
But that makes sense though if you think about it, because look at all the campers. They look like they haven't acted in a movie in ever. Like Jason Alexander, this was his first movie. The kid who played Glazier looked like they brought him up from the street.
The guy
Was
who
it
played
Jason Alexander's
Woodstock
first movie?
It was Jason Alexander's
Is,
first movie.
you guys recognize the guy who played Woodstock?
Yeah, he was
there,
Iggy
Fisher.
Koopa in Super
Fisher
Mario Brothers.
Yeah, he
Stevens.
was Iggy Koopa in Super Mario Bros.
Famously known for that.
Fisher
Yeah,
Stevens.
Fisher Stevens
Yep.
also played an Indian guy in Johnny Five.
He is also.
Yeah, that I was like, no. I looked at it. I kept going, no, he didn't. Stop that. No, he didn't.
Okay, I'm just gonna say it right now. Woodstock is like he's in the Hall of Slain for me.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Well,
up
we'll
there.
get into that more. He was currently
Playboy.
his latest thing was he was in Succession.
Oh yeah.
You know who else was in this movie?
Ollie
Academy Award winning.
Holly Hunter.
Hunter. Yeah,
I have no idea where she showed up in this movie.
that's right. Fisher Stevens was in Succession. I had to think about that for a second. That was a great show.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that this movie had like legit
It had a
three
lot of
big
talent. It
actors.
had a lot of big actors.
And then they
in it.
had Glazier.
Glazier did some things too, though, didn't he? He was he was a known actor at the time.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
God, I don't want to
No.
watch anything with him.
Currently on Rotten Tomatoes, The Burning has a 77% critic score and a 60% audience score. So it's better than average overall.
The guy who played Glazier did literally nothing.
Yeah, stand corrected.
Well, this is his movie then.
He was in
This
Dances
is
with
his breakout
Wolves.
role, and unfortunately,
You're wrong,
five
Logan. He
people
did
saw
do
it.
something. He did The Burning.
He did the
Yeah, and he was in Dances with Wolves.
What?
Oh, okay, that's pretty
Yeah.
good.
He was? Are you making that up?
No, I just saw on the IMDb that he was on. That he was in it. I haven't seen it
He
yet.
played the wolf.
Oh,
Major role.
Now, this was my pick for an episode. So, I chose The Burning because, first off, I had never seen this movie before.
I never heard of it.
Yeah, I had not either.
I think so. This is everyone's first viewing, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I am a huge fan of slasher movies.
Yeah.
And everything I've always heard is The Burning. The Burning. You got to see The Burning, right? Because I do like some of the other early 80s slasher movies. My Bloody Valentine's, one of my favorites. The Prowler, I like a lot. Some Friday the 13th, later ones, I like a lot as well. So this was always talked about in the conversation. You know, you got to see The Burning. And like Dan said, too, I had never heard of it either, really. And I wonder if some of that, too, is because it kind of got lost in there with the other 80s slasher movies.
Yeah, like it's strange because when you think of like the early 80s, you kind of think of the ones that stick out to you, the Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Streets.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. It's one of those movies that just was always on my radar and on my like watch list. And I was like, you know what? We're doing a horror movie podcast. This is the perfect opportunity for summer horror. The Burning, perfect marriage there.
Oh, yeah.
Like graham
Great summer movie.
like graham crackers, marshmallows, and
Ooh,
Yeah.
a little s'mores time and a little burning time.
Mm.
I want to get
Crispy-
into it.
Crispy, just like Cropsy.
Our opening
puffy,
statement.
just like Cropsy.
Ugh. What are your thoughts on The Burning? Dan, lead us off. What do you got?
This movie's pretty fun. I enjoyed it. I love the cast of characters, especially Jason Alexander. He's the perfect comedy relief for the movie. I think there's like this very, very rapey, heavy undertone to it that can at times make it a little uncomfortable to watch. So Jason Alexander kind of helps with the brevity of that.
Mm-hmm.
I like how basically the beginning is the end is the beginning type of thing.
Yep.
Like making Cropsy almost like this mythical creature where like when he dies, he becomes alive again and he comes back like even more stronger and sinister. Like they kind of tease that at the end of the movie.
Ooh.
I think that's kind of cool. Obviously, Tom Savini's effects are awesome.
Yeah.
I think for me, like, I think this might be his weakest effects just because I feel like with the type of killer that they have, like, how many times can you see, like, the character kill somebody with a pair of garden shears kind of thing? But, like, I like the finger cut off scenes, like, all the scenes that hit, like the fingers getting cut off, like in that giant canoe scene, that's freaking iconic. I love that.
Yeah.
And then like the reveal of like the makeup for the Cropsy slasher killer guy. And then, of course, when it gets that giant fucking axe right to its head and just like a grape, just like I don't know. I think it's classic horror and the practical effects, the campy nature of it, the interesting character work. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I mean, it's not my favorite movie by any means. It's got its problems,
Right.
but I mean, easy watch for me. 90 minutes, just beautiful.
It's fun, it's a fun watch, and I know there is some definite rapey vibes. I think.
well, there's
Oh, yeah.
one reason for that.
Yeah, it's funny, now.
Movie written by Harvey Weinstein.
Well, now that
and
you-
it shows.
Now that you watch the movie with that, you can really see like
They're all perverts. Every single character is a pervert.
two of the biggest male characters in this, Eddie and Glazer, right, are like these two macho, like
Testosterone. kind of
yeah,
guys.
like the girls are saying like no, and they're like, oh no, baby, it's okay. Like those seem like this macho version of Harvey Weinstein.
yeah, but then you've also got
it's
like
his fantasy.
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, but then you've also got this Alfred that's like creeping on girls.
He's a sexual pervert.
And like we're supposed to be like sympathize with him in some way. I
To
found that very
Dan's
difficult.
point, this is the true Harvey Weinstein is Alfred.
Yeah.
He's the weak, loser, pervert, creep guy.
Yeah.
And he wants to be like Glazer and Eddie, you know?
So he writes, yeah, I mean, that sounds correct, because I just don't understand how, like, one of the things that threw me through a loop for this movie is that Alfred is the final girl. Like, Alfred is the final girl in this movie, and I was surprised there was no final girl in this movie. It was Todd and Alfred at the end. Spoiler alerts, but
Jason Alexander is my final girl.
yeah, but he just kind of fades into the end. He doesn't really do anything.
It was funny when I first, like, I've watched this movie like 3 times, like, just to prepare for this, and the first time I watched it, I completely was like, where the fuck did Jason Alexander
Yeah,
go?
you just
I had to like
stopped being in the
rewind
movie at one
and
point.
like I had to rewind and rewatch it because I was like, I definitely missed, like, did
What
he get
yeah.
murdered? And I was like, oh, he escaped on the boat with the lady counselor.
Yeah.
I think too that Jason Alexander and some of the like other minor characters are actually written in more of a real world sense
Yes.
of like who they are.
Yeah.
Like give me more of these characters
Oh
and
yeah,
not the
I want to see them out there solving problems, like maybe like taking on like Cropsy and like in like some type of Home Alone fashion or something, or
Yeah.
I don't know,
Setting up
like,
traps in the
or setting up
woods.
traps in the woods and like using their camper skills, but you know that would have been interesting.
Another, you knocked something loose in me too. Another thing that I think a criticism that I have of it too is like, all right, you get the setup in the beginning and it's like 4 or 5 of these young guys plotting to do this like prank to this Cropsy guy.
Tonight's the night that we scare the shit out of Cropsy, because when he wakes up, when he sees it, he's gonna have a heart attack.
It all transpires, it happens. And the Cropsy character, like his violence is, to me, it seems so unfocused. Like, I get he's like targeting that one guy, and you kind of like learn at the end that
Is he targeting that one guy? Like,
But-
what evidence would you have? To,
I guess you're right. To your
Right.
point, yeah. Like I'm kind of filling in that blank there, but like his violence is very much unfocused, and it's not like from a point of revenge. And that to me, kind of it hurts. It hurts the Cropsy slasher killer itself, in my opinion.
And you don't know that Cropsy was like, you don't find out till like the last, like right before the final showdown, when Todd has a bit of exposition that says like, oh, Cropsy was actually like really like an alcoholic, like a genuinely like he used to beat us
Evil,
up,
yeah,
like
evil
he was
guy.
like he was a really a bad guy. That's why we decided to pull this prank.
And he got real pleasure out of hurting people, scaring them.
And you know he was a monster before, and you know he just got away with it, so we were doing it. So it kind of gives like justification to what they did to Cropsy, even though what they did to Cropsy was kind of lame. I mean, it was pretty much the equivalent of lighting a candle and
And to your point, kind of.
Well, they did set him on fire.
well,
That was his
well,
own
it's 'cause of
fault.
the alcohol.
That was his own
That was
fault.
all the alcohol and
And the gasoline.
Yeah, he apparently had
and-
kerosene like canisters
apparently,
all
like,
over around
bathed
his
in
bed.
kerosene
Like he
and
loved
Coleman
oily.
fuel
He slept with
and-
oily
Is this
rags.
road
and
rage?
blankets.
kerosene.
He slept in the oil bin, in the oily rag bin. That's where he, yeah.
I want to know, Logan, what are your thoughts on The Burning?
I mean, I was gonna say, like, this movie doesn't feel like a horror movie. It feels like Wet Hot American Summer. Like,
Some of it does, especially like
Yeah.
the baseball scene at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, where the girls are in no bras and the guys are just staring at the girls' butts the whole time. And-
That ass. See that? Oh yeah. I want it. I want it.
yeah, you're right. It did feel that way.
yeah, and I was kind of just like turned off from like Cropsy because I'm like, dude, you're doing nothing until like the raft scene, and I was like, like where is this guy just going into, like what is happening here? Are we just waiting for this to actually happen? And then when it happened, I was like, okay, now I'm into it. And from there, I was like completely like taken by it. But like I really enjoyed this movie. I think it's like it's a fun movie. You know, you don't really see too many movies like this. Like we said, Final Girl is a thing in a horror movie franchise, and this just didn't have one. And I think it works because you don't really need one in this sense. Like, I don't.
I disagree. I think it just kind
I
of makes
don't
the whole
want
thing
to
kind
have
of,
that same formula though. And you know what? For this movie, it works because the movie doesn't leave you off with like that. Like, oh, they did it. They beat them. No, it leaves you off with like a. It's gonna continue going because when they do the final scene where he tells it again.
So do you see Alfred as a hero in the end?
No, I see Todd as a hero. I don't see Alfred as a hero.
I was gonna.
Alfred's a little bitch.
I was gonna say, like, to your point about why there isn't a final girl, like, to me, it's Todd sees in him like what he did as his prank. He sees what Alfred did, and he's like,
Oh, he
I
sees
feel bad. I see a little bit of myself in you. Like, I'm gonna like forgive you. I'm gonna try to like make you like accepted into the group. Like, he tries to like go to bat for him.
Does
and
Todd even
smooth him
remember
over.
that he did it until he has like a flash that or
Well,
like,
it's PTSD. Like when you feel a certain amount of guilt, like it's definitely held with you, but like you.
and I don't think he got busted for it, right? Because he's a camp counselor now. I feel like you set a
that's the
guy
other
on
thing.
fire.
I would
you
think
probably aren't going to be. You committed.
Somebody
a
should have been
felony.
arrested
Somebody,
there. I
a police
think.
report should have been developed, and
like not even that, but like I would think like, oh, like ha ha ha, I was gonna do this prank, and oh, they're dead now, but yet I still have a passion for camping.
yeah, camp counseling is the only career path for me, and.
What Dan, though, said it makes a lot of sense with Todd kind of taking Alfred under his wing a little bit.
Yeah, because he was a little weirdo, and
Right.
probably when he was.
And I think
Killing
like what
Cropsy.
Bearclaw is saying is true also. Like I think what they should have done is they should have had Todd, take him under his wing and then maybe have an exposition scene where he says, hey, when I was a kid, I did some pretty terrible things and like it made me change my life. And I want that for you. Something like that to give a call back, like give us a clue.
It would have connected the dots.
Yeah.
It would have made, because like.
I think I knew he was a part of it because at first I was like, okay, Todd knows something's up. Todd senses that like there's something going on here with the rafts, like, or with the canoes being taken, and that there's something afoot. And then like when the raft comes up and like Alfred's gone, all this is happening. He's like, okay, now I understand. And then when he gets a good look at him, that's when it all flies back. And I kind of like that reveal that Todd was
And that
one
all
of the
happens
guys.
in like the last 15 minutes.
Doesn't matter. I think it's still good.
Okay, and Logan thinks it's good. Here's what I want to ask. Do you think that was done intentionally to set up this like big reveal at the end?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so, because I think an element of horror movies in the 80s, it was that slow burn of why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? Or why are they doing this? Why are they doing it to these people? And I think it's just like, oh, because one of those people was in the
Yeah. It's not like Better Watch
which you
Out.
can't really connect until the last, like, because that's one of my things that I think one of the reasons I'm more critical about the Cropsy thing is they tried to do the Michael Myers thing where they didn't show him, but he did have kind of a cool thing. But they kind of showed him early too with the window.
Yeah, the
and
window
everything.
scene, yeah.
And I think they did the worst possible choice in the sense that they kind of took the middle road. They should have either not shown him at all to a big reveal.
Yeah.
Or they should have Michael Myers him and had him like standing in a lot of places and kids seeing them out of the corner of his eyes, or maybe like seeing him but nobody believes them or something.
Well, that kind of
Alfred.
happens to Alfred. Yeah.
Alfred saw him.
Take it easy, man. What's going on?
There was a face! A horrible face at the window. I saw it. It was there.
Well, there sure as hell ain't nothing out there now.
Because he saw him in the window.
yeah, he saw him in the window
then
for
he's-
like a flash.
But then he
second.
talks about it. He's like, oh, I saw, and they're all like, he's
Think
full
of
of shit.
think of Michael Myers standing outside
Yeah.
by his car
Yeah.
while Lori is in class and she looks out and he is just like being the shape, right?
Well, it's-
like
but
that
then
creates
It's not.
a moment
That's
of
like
tension.
that would be the same as Halloween, though. Like,
Right.
It would be kind of like
they crafted this movie. They took all of the slasher movies that came before this, and they had an idea for Cropsy, and then they made it just like they wanted it to be like Halloween.
So you're saying, though, you wish it was one way or another, and they took the middle
They
ground.
kind of took the middle route.
I kind of
feel
like what they did with like waiting till like the last second to reveal it, because like you got a sense of the characters, like what they were going through, And then you also have like this kind of sense of like building up this tension of like, what's going on? How is this going to happen? And then like as soon as what's her name goes like skinny dipping or whatever with Eddie, and then like she goes off, you're like, here we go. Here's when it comes. And then like it builds up to this big like reveal with Todd being it. Like I don't want Cropsy to be Michael Myers because Michael Myers is 101. But I feel like you're right. Like Cropsy should have had more.
Oh yeah.
Like there should have been more like Cropsy. More Cropsy.
I think his
Justice
makeup
for
looked
Cropsy.
pretty good. Like I think he was terrifying element, and I think
It's probably
somebody running around looking like that, and them having seen him, or them having seen him and being able to do nothing about it because they're stranded. I mean,
Yeah, right.
those
Stranded on the island with no.
Yeah, even stranded out in the woods with no reasonable means except like walking back, and he picks them off one by one. There's a bunch of very interesting ways that they could have done it, but they tried to do the Michael Myers thing, and I don't think they did it successfully.
It's funny because like what you're saying you don't like in this is I'm going to be interested to hear what your take is on Friday the 13th too.
Yeah,
because there's maybe some similarities you don't like there either.
Well,
Oh yeah, interesting.
I think though
Yeah.
with Michael Myers, like you don't feel bad for Michael because he's insane. I feel a little bit bad for Cropsy until like we find out that he was actually like an asshole.
yeah, and that's the other thing. They totally, if you had any sympathy towards a guy who had like full burns and anything like that, they take it away at the. They should have either kept it where it's like, oh, poor Cropsy, he was driven insane, and he was like some kindly guy, and these guys were like, you know, really picking on him or something, and now he's back for justice. But it turns out he was just an asshole who got his uppins, and then it would like pick on kids and like beat on kids.
Yeah.
And then, but you don't find that out till the last 15 minutes. And it's like, if you had known that earlier, you could be like, oh, he's really like bad guy coming after him. Or you could have found out like, oh, okay, well, he's, you know, going out for justice, and maybe you could have developed some sympathy, but you really get robbed of both opportunities here. That's where I'm saying the timing is off on that.
I get what you're
Yeah.
saying. I think it would have worked better too, like Dan was saying, as like more of a revenge movie.
Revenge angle, yeah.
Yeah.
Or like if it had done well too, like I thought this would have been a cool concept where like maybe Cropsy's primary target for this movie is Todd, and then like the next couple movies, like those 3 or 4 other kids that were in the beginning plotting, like the sequel is like, all right, like a Kill Bill kind of scenario where he's got a kill list.
Going through.
He's got a list.
Now,
yeah.
Bearclaw, you listed some things that you weren't so happy with, but what are your overall thoughts on the burning?
Like, this movie isn't a bad movie. I think it's got some cool stuff in it. I really do. I think like, yeah, the flamethrower thing I thought was kind of cool with Cropsy.
Oh, yeah, at the end.
Towards the end. I thought I really liked the raft scene. I don't know if you guys remember Eddie's giant neck when he gets stabbed, but his neck looks to be like a foot and a half. Like, it's like a huge friggin' neck.
That is a Tom Savini special. He actually does the same bit in Friday the 13th.
You see like the actor's chin is just resting like on the mannequin, like the mannequin is like the throat, chest
but the
down.
throat is like a foot and a half.
Yeah.
Like it's like very so that part was comical in a good way, and I enjoyed that part. I enjoyed like the gore of it. I gotta be 100 with you guys though. I thought the shears would have been cool for like a murder, but like that being the primary murder weapon, it's kind of lame.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Kind of weak sauce. I gotta be real
He
honest.
should have
Much
had
weak
sauce.
He should have had a chainsaw or something.
Yeah, like you think of the arsenal of, you know,
I'd pack a
there's so many
chainsaw.
farmers that don't have all their fingers because of all the sharp
Right.
implements that can be used. Like even with the Leslie Vernon movie, like he came up with like that hand sickle. Like
Yeah.
even that could have been like
Like I said, get a chainsaw.
Nah, man, you need a weed whacker.
like
Oh,
a weed whacker with blades. Or
well, I was
like
just thinking,
saw
like,
hands.
what was his job? He was like a custodian or janitor. Or
Yeah, he
whatever?
was
He's a
like
groundskeeper.
Oh, so he should have like a
He
weed
should have had
whacker.
a whole like treasure chest
I'd
full
pack a
of
chainsaw.
yeah, he could have been having a wheelbarrow and had all kinds of
And then he could have
things.
thrown his victims in trash bags and put them at
Throw
the
him into
curb.
a wood shredder or
Dude, that would have been brutal. That would have literally been brutal.
and all of that stuff could have been really cool, but we just did the, you know, like I said, we just did
well,
the
we did. You know, Woodstock's fingers.
Yeah, that was the coolest thing that was done with him by far. But I'm kind of on the fence about this movie because I think it is a slasher movie. The heart of it is a slasher movie, and it takes from other slasher movies, and it is the kind of the platonic slasher movie, but the only thing to its detriment, it feels from the final girl aspect of it, which raises a whole bunch of other questions about why can't the woman be a hero? And
Harvey Weinstein.
And the answer to that may be in the writers. But, I just kind of thought it was, I didn't really like the characters of Alfred. Todd was a real, what do they call him? Mary Sue's, who's like, oh, I'm so good at everything.
Yeah.
And,
I'm White Knight complex.
I'm the White Knight of the thing. So Todd didn't even really get a real hero credit, or not
blazing.
Todd, Alfred. So I was like, I wish they had picked Todd or Alfred
or maybe Glazier.
Honestly, even Glazier.
Character development. After glazing, he became the best.
After glazing?
He had trouble glazing, and then
no, he glazed. He just glazed too
he
too
glazed
early.
Too early. Oh,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure whether
That
he
was the
did.
best 3 seconds of her life.
That's all.
But yeah, no, I think there's stuff to love about this movie, but I just don't think it's like. I don't think it does anything particularly well. I think I did enjoy the camp scenes. I think it's like so cool to look back then. I think the camp scenes were well written. Having stayed in a summer camp myself, I found it to be pretty accurate, except for the fact that they had just reckless abandon with children, just like, oh, you guys just all go off into the woods. But that was probably the 80s more than anything else.
Yeah, 80s.
I thought they were gonna shoot Glazer there.
Yeah,
I was like, what the hell are we watching?
Yeah, I was gonna say they had like a pistol situation all set up, and they were gonna cap his ass. But
Go get his.
I've got two ratings I could go between, and I'm gonna kind of listen to everybody else and try and make some decisions because I want to hear whether you guys are advocating for this movie or it's just you feel kind of very meh about it, like myself.
I gotta say, Bearclaw, I'm kind of stuck in between myself a little bit because I like a lot of what this movie does. We touched on it. The gore, the camp atmosphere is great. I think the Cropsy killer is good. I do wish we saw more of him and more interaction.
Well, we
with
did
him.
with the hooker.
It's funny. I was reading some reviews for The Burning, and a lot of people were like, "Why the fuck did he kill the hooker? What was?
What
was up with that?
That was Harvey's. He fought for that. He fought for that.
He
shit.
was on set.
He kept that shit in.
Dude, it felt like a weird. Like, again, a 70s porno. Just like one of these weird
and like
things.
why? So Cropsy was just a killer. Then.
Well, I was thinking this is his origin story, right? Or not his origin story, but his like first kill, because he goes in, he stalks this girl, right?
Yeah.
She has the fear, and then she looks at him, and oh god,
and then he takes scissors,
right? And then he's like, "Oh, scissors!"
They should have showed him there too. If they should have showed his face there. They should have
No, I don't agree with that.
So what you're saying, Kevin, is he is the laziest slasher killer ever. He was just like,
oh, scissors. Well, I guess I'll just now I have to use scissor-based weapons the entire time.
He was like, "I got a bigger pair of these back at the camp.
I got a bigger one of these at home."
Is he related to Edward Scissorhands?
Who would win in a fight?
Who would win in a fight? Edward Scissorhands would win in a fight.
Edward Scissorhands would carry it.
I mean, to Bearclaw's point too, I think a lot of these characters are just not written well, and I think that's the biggest detriment to this movie.
There's a reason for that.
is there is no final girl, and I know that is a formula. And maybe this movie does that good where they're going away from the formula, but I don't think they do it right either, because the main characters that last to the end, we're not really rooting for. We could root for Todd, but we don't know everything to get in
I'm
his
rooting
corner.
for people to live, but I'm not caring enough about them where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm rooting for you to kill this guy, and
I'm not gonna lie to you. Once Jason Alexander escaped safely, I didn't give a shit about anybody else.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the knock on the Friday the 13th movies.
Woodstock.
Is they do a thing where they have all these just random characters that don't have any development at all. We don't know anything about them, but they like to have sex, drink,
They're cannon
alcohol.
fodder.
Yeah. And then they are just there to get killed by Jason. We're supposed to actually root for Jason because, like, why do we care about these fucking campers?
Yeah.
And they really came up with that formula that works for that. This, it's like they're trying to make us care for these characters.
Even though I don't.
But I actually think the acting itself is pretty good in this.
I believe that they were campers and stuff.
I believe they were kids, because everything they said was like, I like the scene, especially when Jason Alexander comes in the cabin with all the contraband. And he's got like his Playboy, and he's like, "Oh man, I'd really like to thank the mom and dad for this one."
That's such a good line.
Well, and
Woodstock's awesome.
And like one of the things too with like Glazier, clearly supposed to be this character we're supposed to hate, right?
Yeah.
Because he's supposed to be like this big like bully that's coming to like doesn't care, doesn't listen to anybody. Then they go and like 3/4 of the way through the movie, they make him like. They flesh out his character for some reason
Right.
and like make him more of like, okay, well, he's the bully, but he's obviously compensating for something.
Right.
And like, you know, he's like,
He needs to take his vitamin E.
and then they kill him. Like, why wasn't Glazier the final, you know, or like they make him sympathetic and then they off him immediately.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. It's frustrating because, again, the acting was so good. I think if you give these actors actual good character roles, I think it would have came off so much better, and we would have had people to root for and been more invested. Because I think for me, that's the biggest knock. It's like I'm not invested in these characters.
Besides Fisher and Eddie on the raft, who were the other the girls hadn't shown up in the entire movie before
And
that. So what do we?
They did shit with the girl characters too.
They didn't.
Hold on. Let's girl character on the raft there, Barbara. I couldn't stand that Barbara.
No.
You remember Barbara?
Oh yeah.
Barbara's the one that like in every scene she overacts every fucking thing. Like she is the girl with the bottle, like it floats.
Yeah.
The whole thing where they're actually paddling on the raft, like I don't know, just like all of her animations just bugged me. And like everything was just
Was she the girl that pushed Glazer into the water?
No, that was
No, that was somebody else. I don't think she had a name, that one.
That was Marnie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
she was annoying me. Where she's like, I can't row anymore, and it's just like,
I can't row anymore, girl.
okay.
That's
well,
what I'm talking about.
I do feel like they made
they're
them,
all the same.
They did a good job, and they did make the characters like they made them real enough for me as far as like camp kids go. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, you could believe
them
it,
playing
yeah.
cards and like
Yeah.
you know and like stuff that in any summer camp that I've ever been to would never fly. But
You know what? Actually, that makes me think about this movie. I really liked all that stuff when they were in their cabins and things like that. When they go and they canoe out to that island portion of the camp, I think that's where it got a little like off basis for me. I wish they made the camp seem like an island
why did they
or
have
something.
to leave the camp? They left the camp.
They
and then
almost
everything.
limited themselves with what they could do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think they were trying to make that scenery change to make it feel more isolated.
Yeah.
But you're already at a camp in the woods.
Yeah, but they could just call the cops.
Yeah, but
take
I mean,
out the phone.
Yeah, you can call the cops, but it's going to take 45. I mean, this is 1980. I mean, it's going to take a while. I mean, they managed to fly some police in helicopters, but I mean, that's after several bodies appeared. I mean, there's a lot of remote camps that are way far away, and it's just going to take time.
Yeah, they said that the police had to chop her in.
Yeah.
To where the abandoned campsite was, where Todd and Alfred were.
I think the other thing too is I like the point of view shots, but I think there's too many of them for me in this movie, and they drag too long. I think.
Yeah.
There were times where it felt a little like, ugh, like what are we doing here? You know, the scene where Eddie and the girl were in the lake. And then she leaves him because he was being an asshole.
Yeah.
Beyond belief. And then
all these kids are assholes.
Well, and then her clothes are strung up, right? And then we're getting like, okay, I like this idea, right? She's got to go to each article of clothing. But a scene that should have took 2 minutes took I don't know, 5-10 minutes. Like it seemed to go on forever.
It's because she was very, very naked in that scene.
That's exactly it. We see full frontal nudity, and it was like Harvey Weinstein was like, "Oh, just keep it going, just keep it going."
Yeah, there's like that, but you know what? I think the fundamental thing that bothered me in this whole movie, and it just goes to show, we just came out of Jaws. And some other movies where this is fantastic. The sound design in this movie was dog water. The sound, like, listen to the music of this movie.
There was one thing that I really, really
remember
loved sonically, and that was when Alfred was spying on Glazer and Sally, and it cuts to him like spying on him, and there's that like synthwave effect.
Yeah,
that was fucking cool.
I was like, man, there's some synth in this.
But yeah, other than that,
in it.
like I tried looking for that. I was like, is that a song? I looked for the soundtrack. No,
dude, they didn't have enough money. They had to pay Tom Savini $1 million.
Yeah.
And with the the look of Cropsy, that probably also costed like a bunch of money too.
Tom Savini has famously said that he regrets the Cropsy makeup. Apparently, he only had, I don't know, a certain amount of time, and he wanted more time for it. So that's his biggest
I feel
critique.
I feel even more bad for Cropsy.
He didn't get the full.
Yeah, I see behind those blue eyes.
So.
No one knows what it's like to be the bad man.
I do have a lot of qualms with this movie, but one of the coolest scenes ever to me is in this movie, and it's when they're going out canoeing.
Yeah.
Or they're not canoeing. They're on their makeshift raft that they made.
Yeah.
And they're coming across that abandoned canoe, right? And I mean, we all know, like,
it took them way too long to get to that damn canoe.
but I liked this long build up because we all know like what's gonna happen. Like, don't go for this fucking abandoned canoe.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, man, it's like, and like, like Dan said earlier, with the fingers cut off.
The raft scene was one of the redeeming scenes.
It was hard to watch.
Yeah.
In my notes, I have it listed as the money shot.
It really is of the movie.
It's an iconic scene, and the poster too with it. The shears.
Down.
Speaking of the shears, let's talk about.
Talk about the cardboard shears with the aluminum foil wrapped around them.
The cardboard shears.
Oh, there was this like. Oh, sorry. There's a tangent, but like I don't know. At one of the scenes where like he's holding the scissors, they look fake. They look like there's like aluminum
super
foil.
shiny.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say one of the scenes that I understand about this movie the least is remember when Glazer and that girl were on the ground, or that girl had been murdered already.
Yeah.
And then, and excuse me, I don't remember her character's name, but she had been murdered already, and the sleeping bag was over her. And Glazer goes to lift up the sleeping bag.
Sally, I think her name.
Sally, yeah. And then the shears were just like right next to her, and like he didn't see Cropsy standing like right next to her, or smell him, or like.
Oh, wait a minute.
Why does it smell like
bacon?
Dude, I thought he was in the sleeping bag with her. He was standing there?
How could those shears have come up at that?
It was a funny angle, like the way they shot it.
Because like her head was there, and the shears were like next to her head, and the shears, like, think about how you'd have to hold that. So like then all of a sudden they would like go.
I mean, you're right. I just thought he was in the sleeping bag.
He must have been like sitting there, like leaning down, like holding the shears next to her head. Like crapping, like sitting there like a dog taking a shit,
he dug a hole and stuck his hand through it, and he said, "Pretend I'm not here."
The Glazer thing was pretty cool, where it like came up and like it pinned him, and they said he had to like hold on to two poles. Like that part was that was cool.
The director actually played Cropsy in all the killing
all
scenes.
of it. Yeah,
that's cool. He knows what he's doing.
Like I said, that canoe scene was iconic, and there were really good kills, and a lot of it is Savini's effects. That one was definitely a little weird though. Like where I was like, "What the fuck is he?"
There's two of you. How did you miss this oversight?
Yeah.
I do want to ask. So this is considered, a cult classic slasher. This is what
This is considered a cult classic?
Yeah, I think so. It's talked about.
I
a
don't
little
get
bit.
that.
I gotta be honest with you. I searched for this movie didn't even merit a dead meat video.
Oh,
yeah. If it hasn't got a dead
Friends of the
meat
podcast.
video.
Yeah,
If it doesn't get a dead
I
meat.
love that show. I'm a huge fan of that show, but they're pretty extensive in their coverage. And there's a couple of horror people that I referenced looking for just some YouTube and to see what the critical reviews are. And I mean, there was a couple of people that had YouTube videos up, but they were kind of more explainers, and there wasn't a lot of criticism that this movie had done on it.
Yeah, I mean, what I want to ask for a discussion though is this is a quote unquote quintessential slasher film. Now there are some good parts in this movie and some problems we had with it. But what do you guys think makes a great slasher? Like, what is because we did talk about the formula for a final girl, for instance. Slasher movies seem to have the final girl. And Behind the Mask, Leslie Vernon talks about that a lot. What do you guys think are some of the ingredients to a good slasher movie?
Perverted scenes.
Okay. Actually, that goes into what I think makes a good slasher movie is
you can have that, but you can't have the protagonist be a pervert.
Okay. No, I mean nudity nudity and sex is I think a key of a slasher movie.
Because that's life.
But what I was taking out of what you were saying is characters and actually having good characters because
you need character development.
Yeah, I like good character development in a
you need
slasher
to feel,
movie.
care about, hate them. You need to have some kind of feelings.
You need a good origin story as well.
Ooh, an origin story.
You also need, and this is one of the things that this movie was missing. You need and Todd tried to do it, but he did an awful job of it. You need a hype man. You need somebody. You need a Dr. Loomis.
Yeah.
And you need somebody because they told the story about him and did
at
a
the
quick
campfire.
Thing. But again, not nearly enough. Not he is death. There was nothing that made Cropsy seem more formidable or there was and I think that and to be honest with you, if we're talking about quality slasher movies, any slasher movie is going to have to go toe to toe with Halloween 1978 for me. And that is in my mind the platonic slasher movie.
I mean I think
it's hard though because you have you have these great directors, these great writers, the people that were working on them worked on each and every character to make them as realistic as it is. The three girls there, they're all during that time, they were based on actual how females were portrayed.
You're talking about Halloween 1978.
Yeah. And
okay.
I think though, you also have the perfect serial killer. You have this setup for an origin story. You have this intensity with this tension built up to this final battle at the end. Yeah. And I think the problem is not a lot of movies can ever compare to that. And I think it's hard to find a perfect movie. And I think this movie had the potential and it just couldn't get it done.
I know it's not a slasher movie, but I mean, what about Alien?
Yeah.
You know, Alien does that really well too. It establishes its characters. Yes, the slasher is some biomechanical horror, but I mean, and I'm not talking Aliens. Those are the Aliens is barely a horror movie, but Alien, the original, it shows the alien, but not a whole ton. And I think it manipulates the characters and everything like that. And I don't know. It's just that is also very comparable to Halloween for me.
I think if you are going into watching a movie and you're yardsticking it with something that is great as Halloween, it's never going to satisfy you though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For me, the biggest quintessential element to a slasher movie and that this one is lacking is style points. We talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
Garden shears, fucking boring kills, man.
You need creativity, man.
Creativity, yeah.
Friday the 13th franchise, those kills are incredible. They're fun. Freddy Krueger, he has the dream element. He's got the dream element though too, where he can become a giant head and eat somebody.
Yeah.
Michael Myers, is more brooding and stalker-ishy, but and he got more violent and creative as the franchise went on. He just got more brutal.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, you have to up the ante as you go.
Yeah, and it's just this is weak sauce.
Yeah.
I think, one of the things you touched on too, a key component for me is fun with slasher movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this one had a decent amount of fun, I would say.
Yeah, I think so.
But fun is definitely a part. There's got to be an element of there has to be an element of fun to it too.
Dan touched on Nightmare on Elm Street too.
Mm-hmm.
This movie was out 3 years before Nightmare on Elm Street. Some similarities.
Yeah.
Oh, the burning.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. Disfigured face.
Yeah. And then they took it and they made better characters, murder weapons.
And vigilante
and made it
justice.
Fun and interesting. Yeah.
Vigilante justice, right? Yeah.
But they were both burned.
Yeah. Pulling at straws here. I don't know. Grasping at straws.
I mean, they're both assholes, but I guess. I don't know.
You know what? I want to ask, do you think this movie deserves a remake?
Oh.
No. Maybe without Harvey Weinstein and
Well,
maybe-
yeah.
Isn't that what Terrifier is? Just
Yeah, but you can do this different than Terrifier.
I feel like there
where it's
is, but you have to have a good plot point. You can't just be like, oh yeah, we're just gonna remake it just the same as it was. You got to do a whole new story with it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was thinking there's room for there to be a sequel, exactly what Logan is saying. It's just they gotta market it and they gotta put better quality behind it.
They gotta get
They could
good
definitely
actors.
do a sequel to this as long as they changed everything about it and made it a movie. Then it would have been.
And they
it would
give
have been
him a white
awesome.
mask.
But I think some of these iconic slashers have this big IP attached to them, and Cropsy could be this big IP.
I feel like this thing had a lot of. This thing could have had a lot of steam behind it. I think its release cooked it. I think that its lack of imagination cooked it. And I think that
Cropsy cooked it.
No, because Cropsy could have been. Cropsy already
was
had momentum. He was a real.
He was already cooked.
It was a real
past
folklore villain. He was
Crispy.
he was there,
It was
but
KFC.
I want to ask, who's your favorite character in this?
Woodstock.
Woodstock? You like Woodstock?
I just liked him because he was relatable. I liked how he was like, oh, I gotta go get my vitamin D. And then Todd comes in and he's like, hey, everyone said you were sick. And he's like, why would they say that?
Laserfish said you were really sick. I was worried.
Why'd they say that?
I don't know. Just a dumb joke. Getting a little fed up with Glazer's sense of humor.
He's like, I don't know. Glazer's got that sixth sense of jokes. And
yeah, Woodstock's a good one. I liked Woodstock.
I think though it's obviously Jason Alexander.
Dave?
Yeah.
he's definitely the most likable character. The most.
What about Eddie?
What do you think, Dan?
Oh yeah, Dave, 100%. And then Woodstock's a solid second.
Yeah, agreed.
And see, this is the issue.
I
I
also like
think
Fish,
we're
too.
picking secondary characters as our favorite characters.
And both those characters are out of the movie before the end. 'Cause Alfred is tough to. I can't root for Alfred. I just
He's a
don't.
little
I can't. I
bitch.
don't connect with him. I don't want to root
That
for
actor
him.
too was in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. as
He was
I haven't
Rat.
seen
the
that
Rat, yeah.
either.
I think we're on to Hook, Line, and Stinker. Now our hook is our favorite kill of the movie. Our line is our favorite line or quote of the movie. Our stinker is something bad, funny, or weird that happens in the movie that makes it either better or worse.
Usually worse.
My hook is the empty canoe scene. I think it's iconic. We talked about it earlier, but it's brutal. And I think it's cool because they build up the tension the right way and they give that jump scare and a bunch of deaths right away, which kind of was like, whoa, it really shocked me, which is always cool to have, especially in a slasher movie. And that's another thing too. Jump scares, I think, are a part of a good slasher.
Yeah, it was a good jump scare.
I know that sometimes they can be, overdone and things like that, but I think you need one or two in a slasher just to keep the heart rate raised.
I mean, it had to with him popping out of the canoes and then him going up against Alfred there where he kind of popped up.
Oh, yeah, he did pop up. My line is actually the last lines in the movie where the camp counselor is retelling the legend. And he said, every year he kills.
Right now, he's out there watching, waiting
So don't look. He'll see you. Don't breathe. He'll hear you. Don't move. You're dead!
that was ending was funny to me.
I liked the ending. Because like you were saying,
I enjoyed it. I thought that was like the last line was so campily delivered. Made me laugh.
You're dead. And he looks right into the camera. My stinker is some of the beginning scenes when they're in the hospital.
Hey, take a look at this guy.
Hey, listen, you got a minute?
No,
I want to show you something down the hall. After you see this guy, you'll never want to come back in here again. Man, this guy's burned so bad, he's cooked a fucking Big Mac. Overdone.
What did that scene achieve? Can anybody explain to me what that whole scene, that
so
whole
funny.
page and a half of dialogue?
I
what
gotta
did
go
that
home,
achieve?
man. No, come over here.
Man, this guy is
Look at
so
his dick.
burned.
It looks like hamburger meat.
He's cooked.
Come here, look at the medical patient.
Fucking Big Mac, overdone. I mean, the only sense I can think of is to give you that jump with the arm and it being burnt, so it's
was an
giving
art
you an
jump scare.
idea of how
Yeah,
burnt.
how
Yes,
messed
that
up
was
he
pretty
is.
solid.
Yeah.
That was good.
Or you could just show us his face, like
the other stuff.
And the movie's over.
Not so good.
Yep.
Oh, all right, Dan. What do you have?
Hook, I have Cropsy's death. I figured some folks would be going with the canoe scene. Cropsy's death, axe to the face, head juice goes sploosh. What's not to like?
yeah.
Ooh.
I would say
juice.
I do like the
Juice.
head juice.
Juice. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a turn off.
To your point with the canoe scene, the one thing I will have a grievance or a gripe with is like, all right, he pops out. There's like 4 or 5 fucking kids on there, and they're all just like laying there, like, no, don't stab
use the
me.
shears.
Oh, don't
Yeah.
kill me.
No one jumps up.
And then one guy's neck
acting-
grows a foot and a half.
and like all he's doing, he's just walking over to all of them, and he's just going, bloop, and like none of them move, like while the other one's getting like.
You are right. You are right.
But not to take away from it. but
No.
it is a cool scene.
I just throw reality out.
Yeah, of course. Line, Woodstock.
All right, which one of you guys got my vitamin E? Vitamin E? Christ, Woodstock, you don't believe in all that crap.
Just don't knock it. You leave my champ alone, huh?
You leave my champ alone, huh? I just thought that was it's funny, just like the banter, like is like so good in this movie. And so,
Does anybody know what the vitamin E thing was back
fertility.
then?
I looked it up. At least that's what I was able to find with it. Is like it's supposed to keep you fertile.
Were we talking about that as well? Where we're like, "What does this kid need vitamin?"
Yeah, we were like, what the fuck does he keep going with the vitamin E?
Again, going back to the whole rapey undertones.
God.
And then my stinker, I talked about Barbara already, but I'll share my runner-up, and that was just the killing of the hooker. It just seemed so random and out of place.
Just makes Cropsy seem directionless.
Yeah.
Kind of like Harvey Weinstein.
Damn. All right, Bearclaw. How about you?
For Hook, I did Glazer's death because I still think that was one of the, like, if you're going to use shears, you got to put somebody on them, lift them off the ground. Even though it was a weird sleeping bag angle, you gotta let some things go, you know? So Glazer's death was, I liked that. He was literally impaled by the shears and was screaming and pegged to a tree. I thought that was good. I also enjoyed Alfred getting stabbed in the shoulder and hung up by the shoulder because I thought he was a little bit of a creep. And then, so those were my, even though he didn't die, so it can't technically be my Hook.
Oh, the worst
But he
is
did get hooked, kind of.
Oh, yeah, you're
but
right.
it would have been better if this killer had used a hook instead of lame shears. And then my line is between when Todd and Glazer were talking to each other is,
You know what your problem is?
No, man, what's my problem?
You can't take anyone your own size.
Oh, yeah, well, that's bullshit.
oh yeah, well that's bullshit. And that's my line because it just goes to show how bad the writing was.
Oh yeah, that's bullshit. Man. It's all about the he said, she
Like,
said
why
bullshit.
you'd even waste the time to have that in your movie, and like there was no payoff between the Todd Glazer relationship. It was just kind of a line that had happened. Then the next thing, the stinker, the impossible shears in the sleeping bag, and then I had a note: look at the size of that friggin' neck. That guy's neck has to be a foot and a half to 2 feet long.
Damn.
So, you know, Tom Savini is a master of horror. Nobody can contend with that, but everybody starts somewhere, and that's a big neck. So that's what I got for my hook, line, and stinker.
Awesome. Logan.
For my hook, I do have the raft scene. I think it's horrifying and brutal. It's kind of good because, like, the fingers are hard. I hate finger
fingers.
stuff. Poor kids, especially Woodstock. He didn't deserve. R.I.P. Woodstock. He's my favorite character besides Alexander there.
Jason Alexander.
Same thing. Eddie deserves what he had coming, though.
Yeah, Eddie was a dick.
You know, I have to say, though, if I was on that second raft, I know I didn't get attacked or anything, but I'd at least try to find a weapon or something to protect myself just in case it happens again.
Or
Like,
maybe you'd use the oars or like the sticks that you had in your hand.
They didn't use the oars and like
Roll off the raft.
Or
like-
roll off the raft. Yeah, get away from where he could have.
I don't know.
some-
None of them could swim?
Well, they all apparently just laid down,
Yeah, we gotta watch it again.
accepted their fate.
It's over.
You know, I said like I would carry a weapon. You know, I'd carry a chainsaw.
Pack a chainsaw.
Skin their ass
What?
raw.
Skin their ass Immediately, Limp Bizkit.
Fred Durst, friend of the podcast.
Fred Durst as Cropsy. For our remake.
Write
That'd be
it
a
down.
good movie too.
Line.
That's all.
That's all.
Poor Glazer.
I think it's funny. I think it's hilarious that Glazer glazed in this movie. He was all testosterone. Like he, you know, in most relationships, it's all about the he said, she said bullshit. And Glazer was all BS. Like he was just talking himself up like a big guy. And then like the second he gets into the sheets with her, he, you know, premature. You know, that's usual for these kind of movies. For my stinker, Alfred. He's literally
Just Alfred.
Don't give a shit about him or any of the characters. They're mostly perverts or weirdos that have these one-liners that come from cheap pornos. I do feel for a guy like Todd, you know, because like guilt, like having to deal with like a big guilt like that, obviously when it happens when you're young, it's hard to deal with, even though he did choose to come back to the camp to be a counselor, so whatever. Having to deal with the guilt of, like, killing a dude is, like, I mean, he didn't really deal with that, but, like, he's still, like...
Yeah, what did he deal with? It seems
Well,
like
you know,
he didn't
heavy is the
shock
head
his-
that wears the
he just
crown.
He just finished the job.
You know what? Like Logan's right. Alfred is the stinker. Why were we focused on Alfred? We should have been focused on Todd.
I feel like Todd
Yeah.
should have been the main character.
Yeah.
I feel like it's like a bad writing thing where like they were like, we're gonna make this weird kid the red herring.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they were trying to do this whole mystery angle of what's going on.
I do like, though, that, like, even though he did see, like, oh, shit, this guy's, like, a burned-up zombie thing, like, that, you know, is coming back from the dead. Like, if I saw that, I'd be like, oh, shit. But he didn't back down. Like, when you're facing off against, like, a disgruntled janitor dude, your best bet is to stay away. But, like, this guy just came in with the...
Jesus, so many Limp Bizkit.
I'm sitting here like clutching my chair. Did you write this hook, line, and sinker based off the lyrics? If you did, I want you to know I respect that.
I did.
He did it all for the nookie. Any honorable mentions?
Glazer did it all for the nookie.
Any honorable mentions at all?
No.
I think for me, it's just like the rapey scenes of, you know, like the guys and Eddie and the lake and Glazer and even Alfred just in the shower creeping. Like,
Yeah,
it
it
was
was
just.
Yeah, it was very like there's so many tweaks they could have done to just make this a more formulaic slasher movie that would have had much broader appeal and wouldn't have felt as off balance. Even during this time frame, I feel like there's a reason it didn't do well.
Yeah. This podcast definitely helped me realize what my rating is going to be.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's good because we're on to our final rating.
They're gonna rate the movie. What will they rate the movie? The killer is great, the victim sucks, the survivor is in between. What was that?
Now, our rating system is killer. This was awesome. A must watch. We would highly recommend it. Survivor, which is our mid tier. It was good. We might recommend this. And some rewatchability. A victim, which is the dreaded victim. We are all the victim in watching it. It's not good. We would not recommend it. And there's no rewatchability. I think for me, I am between a little bit, but I really have to give this a strong Survivor. I can't give it a killer. I think I do like other 80s slashers a bit better than this one, especially My Bloody Valentine, which we reviewed earlier this year. And I gave that one a killer because that has some of the things that this one lacks. It has great characters and, you know, it does have good gore effects. This one, I think, has good gore effects. I think it's fun. You know, it has some tension, but the characters for me is just, it's a failure, I think, in this movie. I think Cropsy could have been better too, more focus on Cropsy. And I think, like we said too, who's the main character? Who are we rooting for in this? I think that was the biggest thing. So I'm giving it a Survivor. Dan, how about you?
I also have this one as a Survivor, but kind of a weak Survivor.
Is it a mid Survivor? Or is it just like
it just squeaks?
It plateaus.
It just squeaks out of stink.
Victim.
Thank you. For me, like I don't know. I just comparing it to like last episode was like Jaws, and like it's such a better quality movie. And I gave it the same rating as this one, and it's just like, no, this one is not nearly as good as Jaws. But I'm still but I just want to preface that this one is a weaker. Mm-hmm. It's got like a couple of really cool effects and visuals. Jason Alexander, I think, is the best part of the movie. The killer to me, there's a lot left to be desired. Yeah. Again, we kind of touched on it. Quintessential elements to an 80s slasher, to me, is style points. My dude, he's got no drip game. In the kill department, those garden shears ain't got no riz.
No cap, dog, no cap.
You can't be a killer when you got no sauce.
Man, all right, Bearclaw.
I was with you with the drip. I was off when you said riz.
I thought we were getting more like
I hate that word. I hate that word.
Logan, would you say that Alfred is a gooner?
Alfred is definitely a gooner.
Now I know what a gooner means.
He edges out to every one of these girls. Yeah,
just makes me want to
stay away.
What's that? Stay away, mother.
Your best one of those days. Your best bet.
It's just
stay
sometimes
away.
it's all about the he said, she said bullshit.
Sometimes you want to pack a chainsaw.
Yeah.
You know I rip a chainsaw.
What? Yeah. So besides Limp Bizkit lyrics, which are only going to be appreciated by a portion of our audience,
and Fred Durst,
I think this. I was very. It was tough for me because this was really between Victim and Survivor for me because I was like, I wanted to see if there was like if this movie had stirred a passion in you guys and like somebody was willing to defend it, and I think I may have leaned more towards Survivor, but hearing that, I feel like everybody's kind of real mid on it. And unfortunately, in the scales of this movie, I think there's enough bad that it goes over into Victim. And there is good in this movie, but it comes down to, would I recommend it to somebody? Would I say, hey, if you want to watch a good slasher movie, watch The Burning? And I don't think I would recommend it as that. So I think for me, I'm going to have to go with Victim.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, I like that explanation for sure. All right, Logan.
For this one, I was between two. I had to think about it,
You seemed like you liked this one.
I did, and then I during this episode, I was skeptical, and I'm trying to think. I'm like, I want to say it. I'm just going to have to go with it. I'm going to give this like a mid-Survivor, like it's not great, but like after hearing you guys, I'm like, man, this movie just sucks at like developing characters. Like I just don't give a shit about any of these characters. I don't care about the killer. I don't care about any of these people. We're just relentlessly shitting on this. The only good part of this movie is Jason Alexander because he's so funny. But like he looks like he's 40 years old. Glacier looks like a 50-year-old bum. Like it's not good. It's like they definitely paid someone a lot of money, and then the rest of the money was just like to these people on the street that were like, hey, we're actors. But like, I don't know. It's a good movie. It's fun. It's fun to watch. Like, the reason why I'm putting it as Survivor is because I think I'd rewatch it at some point. I don't think I'd ever not rewatch it, but I'm definitely not gonna like say to someone, "Hey, The Burning, this is a movie.
Can't miss."
Yeah, it was, it's a lot to do.
I got you. That all makes sense.
Yeah, and my final note on this movie was no surprises whatsoever. It falls in the deadly middle. Go ass out or wait for a big reveal.
Oh, man. You smell something burning?
What's cooking?
I don't know. What is that? All right. Well, our producer, Nathan, also wanted to give his final rating.
It's getting warmer in here, guys.
I know. Well, got to check that air conditioner out. And Nathan said, of all the generic slashers I've seen, The Burning is the most generic. It offers nothing different from everything I've seen before. It's competently made, and the special effects are great, but I simply can't rate it higher than a Victim based on that alone. So Victim for Nathan as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, we also asked you, our audience, your thoughts on The Burning. So let's check our Instagram, and that's at mouse.of.madness to see what y'all had to say. From Dissect That Film, severely underrated with some gnarly kills. Also, George Costanza's there. A bloody good time. George is there for sure. Horror fan. 1996. It takes a while for the kills, but the cast is good and still fun.
Yeah.
Hyped on horror. Couldn't stand it. Grossly rapey, even for an 80s slasher. Yeah.
Well,
My
Harvey,
sentiments exactly.
Harvey thought he was some kind of special.
James Shannon Morant. Good slasher flick, and the practical effects, awesome.
Practical effects. I mean, I agree with the practical effects of The Shining Star.
Yeah, it was good.
Can't outweigh all of the
the pure id energy of these characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kiki _DiMartino. The Cropsy makeup was amazing. Love the movie for having actual campers getting killed. The Wrong Turn Pod. It's a great slasher. Best part is the raft scene. Young Jason Alexander is a plus.
Yeah.
James Shannon Morant, again, good slasher movie ripped off Friday the 13th, but in a good way, and the practical effects top notch. Primetime _ Mitch. I did a nice collab video on the YouTube channel with our life in horror on this movie. Love it. Better than Friday the 13th, in my opinion.
Man, what the hell is up with these comparisons to Friday the 13th?
That's all that I read was comparisons to Friday the 13th about this movie. I'm excited to see how Friday the 13th does compare to this.
Yeah.
Blows it out of the water.
Well, we will have to see. We got that one coming up soon. But our next episode is going to be Dan's pick. Dan is picking Cabin in the Woods.
Yes.
Hey guys, have you noticed it's like real smoky in here? Like, I think it's time to bail. This is...
What's on... is it on a fire? Logan, open the window.
Open the window.
I don't think that's going to help, man.
We're getting out, yeah! We'll be back again soon with another episode. But until then, back to the padded room with ya! I pictured myself on the sandy dildo.